Hey there YouTube, welcome back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo gamer, and I enjoy solo RPG games and solo board games. I'm going to talk about one I did a review on here a while back, and it's an expansion for the game system, and for you solo players out there, it might be something you might want to look into. So, disclaimer before we start the video. First thing is, everything you see here as far as my role-playing games, the board game that I'm going to talk about and review, and everything I talk about on my channel is my own hard-earned money. I purchased these systems because I enjoy games to play them, and I don't have some, at that point, corporate overlord sitting over my shoulder telling me at this point, this game is the best game since the invention of toilet paper. Yeah, so I can be brutally honest and tell you exactly what I think about the game system and not have to worry about any consequences for it. Second thing is, if you enjoy my video, hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the bell icon. And every time my ugly mug makes a new video, you will be notified on whatever device you're using that Artichoke Dip has just uploaded a new video. Anyways. So let's talk. So a while back I had done a review of RuneBound. So RuneBound, if you're not familiar with it, is published by Fantasy Flight Games. It is a board game set in medieval fantasy. Cool thing about it is, as you play the game, and every player takes a turn, you have a turn marker that advances. As it advances, depending on the scenario that you are playing, there are certain points throughout the time marker that the main story quest card is drawn. At that point it's read, and the conditions are met to complete the quest. Now, depending on the quest, some of them can be resolved immediately, but the vast majority of them at that point have to be resolved on different areas of the map, giving you a quest counter at that point that's placed on the map to show its location, and then your character would have to travel to that location and then at that point complete the quest. Now, aside of completing quests, there are also smaller, what I call mini quests on the side, and you have tokens spread throughout the map representing those, and those three being combat encounter, social, and exploration. And all of them are unique onto what they have to offer. Now, all three decks, just because it's marked combat doesn't mean you're always going to get an encounter. As a matter of fact, you could do an exploration and meet an encounter, or do a social and vice versa. It just all depends on basically the cards draw, right? So with that, you get some pretty cool detailed 28mm miniatures as representations of your character on the board, which I love about Fantasy Flight Games because they always give you top-notch miniatures. And they give you these terrain die, which we'll get into in a minute, that you roll, you match up the picture on the die, and at that point it dictates how your character could move across the map, which at that point adds a lot more, how do we put this, challenges for your character and decision making. Because while the AI of the board at that point, through mini quests and movement and terrain features is going on, every time a turn is completed, the time marker keeps advancing. And once that token, which is your time token here, flips over to, at that point, Act 2, what they call it, and generally at that point, you will have completed 6 quests. There are 6 open quests on the board. By the time the 6th quest at that point is revealed and on the board, the main villain in the scenario at that point spawns somewhere on the board, and you have until a time counter runs out to defeat that encounter and lose, Or if you engage the encounter and you are defeated, you lose. So either way, you're kind of in a race against the clock, which is really cool. Now, the original game, the way that it is set up, is it's designed for 2 to 4 players to sit down, each assuming the role of one unique hero, and then at that point, adventuring across the map and trying to complete quests and trying to be the first one to defeat the main villain of the scenario to win the game. Now, I had purchased this game and read through the rule systems, and I made some modifications to play it solo, and I enjoyed it. You know, there were some things that even I noticed as solo that needed to be ironed out. One of them specifically is the combat. So as you cast your combat tokens, you know, and you're looking at your encounter cards, you have a tendency to favor your characters more so than the enemies. And those kinks have been ironed out. So I took the plunge and I have bought the expansion to RuneBound called Unbreakable Bonds. And I figured, what do I have to lose other than time and money, right? You see, like, any of us can afford that. So I'm going to review the game. And I really enjoy doing this for you guys out there, particularly you solo enthusiasts, because sometimes you find out a game, well, may not be what you expected it to be, and at that point it becomes what I like to call a dust collector. And nobody likes a dust collector. So, and let's face it, our hobby's expensive. Our hobby's not cheap, and it costs money. For some reason, they know that we love this stuff, and they're like, we can get money from them to get their fix in the fantasy world. Yes, so the evil demonic forces at the head of Fantasy Flight Games and Wizards of the Coast and the other game manufacturers out there know that we enjoy the products, and we will pay good money. But we just want to know that the money that we're paying is worth it. So let's talk about what changes Fantasy Flight has made to RuneBound to make it a really good solo game. So as I explained, the core... I'm sorry, I'm fidgeting here. We got a new member of the family here, so I'm going to hold him up. Say hi there, kiddo. Yeah, alright. He's fidgeting, sitting in my lap, so if you notice I'm moving around and fidgeting, that's why. He's trying to get comfortable and hopefully he goes to sleep. Anyways, so just had me a brain fart. The changes from this, from the original. Now the original game, like most, I'm noticing the theme of most Fantasy Flight games is that you have multiple options that you can take per turn. Now, one turn round for your character is 3 actions. Now, within those actions, you can, at that point, travel, you can heal, you can shop, you can train to build up your skills, and you can do quests. And you have what I like to call your side quests. So technically, you have like 7 options that you can choose from, but you can only do 3 per turn. Now, when you play solo with the original system, like I had found, I used one character till I got the rules under my belt, and then I altered the stuff to play it the way that I thought that worked pretty well solo. And when I took the plunge at buying the expansion that said, hey, this is a solo play experience, I said, okay, we better give this thing a go and see if it really lives up to the solo experience, or if they're just trying to sell us basically more mumbo jumbo. And, well, I have to admit, I will tell you, this morning I finished up the High Lord Margot, which is one of my favorite scenarios. I mean, who can't love this scenario? It has to do with a big red fire-breathing dragon spreading chaos and disaster across the land. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Anyways, so I had finished it up, and to my surprise, playing by the rules, the way that they wrote them, this seemed like a brand new game system, completely different. I really enjoyed it. There were times that it really had me on the edge of my seat, you know, just as if I was playing against somebody else, but it was actually the game, which you would consider AI, at that point, controlling it. And let's get into some of the major changes that they have done. So the first thing that they have done is they give you a co-op option. If you're not familiar with that, that means cooperative. Cooperative means you or, well, actually not you, but 2 to 3 people can play on the same side. Like if you've ever played Zombicide, which is a cooperative game where multiple players play on the same side against the board AI, trying to, at that point, complete objectives and fight off these hordes of zombies coming in and to escape the board to move on to the next level. So they have introduced cooperative into this game system, which is really cool. So one of the changes is they, at that point, tell you you have the party option. So 3 people could be in one adventure party at that point, venturing across the map to divide and conquer and to do more side quests, more main quests, and then at that point all gang up on the main encounter in the scenario to give you a better overall chance of winning the game. Now with the cooperative that's not available, they tell you in the solo rules, one of the things that I really like is that they have implicated what they call a message card. Now, what a message card is, and let me get a couple of characters out here and give you an example of how the reason why the messaging cards are there and how it really works out. So, let's just say, for an example, we'll take him, and we will take him. Okay, so, let's say one person's playing Lord Hawthorne, which if you look at Lord Hawthorne, he's the type of guy that's like, let's just kick the door in, kill everything, we'll ask questions later, and loot the place while we're there, right? Who doesn't love Lord Hawthorne? He's a Viking, for God's sake, look at him. He knows how to kill and plunder. And then, of course, we have Master Thorn. Master Thorn, as you notice, he's pointing at his head, telling you, hey, I'm real smart, but I really don't have a whole lot of strength. As a matter of fact, I probably couldn't fight my way out of a wet paper bag. So, Master Thorn decides, I'm going to do some training. I need some training. He picks up a card that's really cool, but you have to have a high strength in order to use it. And as a matter of fact, with the card, it could give you a bonus round on top of the bonus round you already have for a combat action. And you're thinking, you know what that guy needs? He needs the option to do even more damage, death, and destruction to the enemies, because at that point, it's going to give me the advantage and possibly win the game. Now, in the old game, you couldn't do that. That was your skill. If you couldn't use it, you just discard the skill card and blah, 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 blah. But now, you could take that skill card, attach it to a message card, along, if you wanted to, some gold, or perhaps you decide, you know, Lord Hawthorne's getting a little cold, there's a cold front coming in, and he might get a bit chilly with all that armor, and he needs, I don't know, a fur cloak. You could attach a fur cloak to it, leave it in any city on the board for him, and then at that point, when he enters that city, he spends 1 turn, he gets the message card, and at that point, his character can equip the skill. Of course, he has to pay for the skill, take the gold, or equip any equipment that was left for him, which is really cool. That gives it a more of a role-playing type of experience to a board game, because at that point you're able to share in the loot and share different things amongst other characters to make the party even stronger at that point. I really liked that. I really loved how they came out with that, particularly with cooperative play. Now, I'm going to try to integrate that in with my solo play, even though they say, hey, this is exempt and you shouldn't use it. But the way I look at it, if I want to use more than one character, technically that'd be like a cooperative game. So I think that's the way I'm going to roll with that. And it might be one rule change that I'm going to add into for my game table. Now, they added in the cooperative play. They added in the messaging cards. One other option that they give you is what they call solo play. Solo play is really cool. And the one thing that affects both the cooperative and the solo play is how they redid the combat system. Now, in solo play, you're going to assume the role of one adventurer. And then at that point, you would play the game as normal, taking the decision in your 3 turns as to what you want to do, whether you want to travel, quest, shop, skills, what have you. And then of course, the time marker is going to advance like normal. And then let's say you go do a quest, but all of a sudden, there's an Etten. You have at that point found yourself face to face with this Etten, and he's not too happy. And as a matter of fact, him or the other ugly head is planning on taking the spike club and splitting your head open with it. So at that point, now you're in an encounter. Now, the old system, when you used to cast out the tokens, you know, you kind of favored your character, right? I mean, who wouldn't, huh? You know. And Fantasy Flights really addressed that and ironed the kinks out, which really does make it a challenge and really does make it a good game. And some of the characters that you would look at, and not characters, I'm sorry, encounters that you would look at, and you would think, hey, you, stay still. Sorry. He's just kind of, yeah, being a little rambunctious. So some of the encounters that you would look at and you would think, oh, that's not bad, you know, Lord Hawthorne will lay waste within 1 round of just a death, you shall die. You'll find out with these cards that they give you, sometimes things don't go the way you want, which adds into the game. So, what they changed was they have given you these cards, and they have changed the classifications of the encounters, because they used to just be considered, this is an enemy, or this is a fey sorceress, or so on and so forth. And then at that point, you had 5 combat tokens that you would at that point cast out, and you would cast out your combat tokens, and the combat would be resolved, obviously, from there, based off of initiative. And when it came to initiative, of course, on your combat tokens, they would have these gold markings on them. Like you can see here, you got a gold skull. They'd give you 1 initiative. So if the enemy had 2 gold skulls and you only had 1, enemy goes first. But if you both had 1 gold skull, the adventurer goes first. Or if the adventurer had more than 1 gold skull, or whatever gold symbol on the token, you get the idea of initiative. Okay. So they changed things up and they came up with 4 classifications for the encounters. You now have the Savage, the Mystic, the Warrior, which the Warrior uses the original enemy tokens from the original set, and now the Trickster. Now, I faced the Trickster in the game I did this morning, and I'll tell you what, the thing that sucks about that little... Anyways, so if you, at that point, fail to block a hit from this thing, at that point, all your gold is gone. Yeah, you just pickpockets it and says, see you later, you know. Yeah, that really stunk, especially when you're on your way planning on to go and buy some gear to face a fire-breathing dragon that's getting ready to decimate the entire land. You have your money in hand, and then it gets stolen from you. So what do you have to do? Now you got to go back out and quest some more, risk your life some more to find some more gold, to be able to afford some equipment, because, you know, this dragon's probably going to, I don't know, fry you to a crisp. Anyways, it did add into it. It made it really, really, really interesting. I think I need some more coffee. So, where it changed the combat for cooperative, the original game, and the solo. So they give you more combat tokens in the expansion, and the colors match up with the cards. Obviously, Savage would be red, and then you got the green for the Trickster. And you cast the tokens like you normally would. But now, you, at that point, arrange your tokens by the icons on the card. Starting from here is going to be his first action, moving to the second, moving to the third, to the fourth, and then at that point, resolving any blocks. Now, the other combat action that they did change is, if you are familiar with RuneBound, and most encounters, not all, I have a deep elf here, and I will show you what I mean. If you look on that card, it has two, it looks like lightning marks on it, and those are called surge actions. So there's two. The first one is kind of a weaker one, and the second one is the more powerful one. So for 2 surge tokens, it does what's called kill, and you deal 3 damage that cannot be blocked. And the way the rules have been rewritten, when you use this card, at that point, any surge actions that are being used, at that point, you have to use the most expensive of the 2, doing the most amount of damage to your character. So it really does level the playing field, and it does kind of take the favoritism of favoring your character out of the game and leveling the playing field. Now, a couple of things that they have added to the game with certain encounters, and I'm going to explain to you what else they have added. If you notice right here, this is a new symbol as well as this one. This symbol represents an unblockable hit, which means normally a shield will block a hit, but with that, your shield doesn't do anything. Unless you have a way to counter it with this symbol, which means you have to have an ability, not an ability, I'm sorry, you have to have a piece of equipment that you can equip at that point that can counter that attack, which gets me to, they give you way more equipment cards to go into the game to give you more options for that, as well as skill cards. Now, with the skill cards, what they do is they have given you multiple, what they call cooperative skills, which are these suckers right here. And then the cool thing is, once that skill is purchased, that skill at that point is shared among everybody in the adventure party. Let's read this one right here, just to give you an idea. This is called combat support. Once per combat round as a combat action, another hero in your party can exert to recast up to 2 of your combat tokens. Now, if you're not familiar with the term exert, what exerting means is that every character has a maximum amount of size of skill cards that they have with their character sheet all the time. Lord Hawthorne has 3. If Lord Hawthorne wanted to exert to recast tokens, at that point he would discard a skill card. Now once he's out of skill cards, that's it. He can't exert anymore until he decides to train and spend a turn, and at that point he would draw up to his maximum size of skill cards, and they'd be attached to his character sheet at that point. So that's what exerting comes in, so you can understand that. So now, you get new equipment, you get more skill cards. They also give you more exploration cards, social cards, and who wouldn't love combat cards? So they add more into the game and make it more interesting as well with that. I was really surprised because, of course, when you have a game that's been out in publication and had a certain rule set written for it, and then you come out with an expansion that says, okay, hey, these rules are to make the game better and you can play it solo and cooperative and all this, we always worry about, okay, is it really going to work, or is there going to be some clashing there that's going to change everything for the worse and make it worse of a game experience rather than better. I can tell you with the expansion, it makes, in my opinion, RuneBound way better. It makes it a way better game. And a lot of the reviews that I read, I agree with them on Amazon for a lot of people that said it really did enhance the game for them. And I agree with that. So, on top of the option of co-op with messaging and adventure parties and the solo and the change in the combat, how it works, you also get 2 additional heroes and 2 additional 28mm minis. Hey, what are you doing there? Hey, you falling asleep on me? Alright, so let me pull these guys up to show you. So you get a elven rogue named I'm gonna butcher this name. Elim. I think it's Elim. And Tatiana, which is, I guess you would say that would be the equivalent of a ranger if you were playing a fantasy role-playing game system. Like, I'm going to use D&D as an example. You have a ranger that has woodland skills and tracking and all that. Then as they get higher up in levels, there at that point, spells, are available to them. And that's the one thing about her, is not only does she have a pretty decent strength, she also has the ability to cast magic too. And Elaine, he also has the ability to cast magic, but looking at his tokens, they're really not represented there. He's more of using dual-wielding blades, but it doesn't mean that because he does have the ability for magic, he can access certain equipment and utilize magical skill. So that is really cool. They give you a couple extra characters, they give you some more minis, they give you some more cards, they give you a lot of stuff for the price, I have to admit. Now, one thing, the last thing that they give you that's really cool, I really like the way that they did this, and it really does, as they put it, change the scope of the game, and they're absolutely right about this, is the original game came with 2 scenarios. High Lord Marigoth the Dragon, and then, let me find his name because I always butcher it, Voragesh the Necromancer. So those are your 2 scenarios to choose from. But with the expansion, not only do you get Marigoth, High Lord Marigoth, and Voragesh, but you also get the Locust Swarm scenario, Fighting the Horde scenario, the Red Death scenario, which is, oh, I'm sorry, let me back the bus up. You get, at that point, the Locust Swarm, which the scenario is Fighting the Horde. Then you get the Red Death scenario, which at that point your character's trying to find the cure for a plague that's spreading across the realms, you know, getting ready to kill everybody. Now, this one, they give you the scenario for it, so, you know, I guess you could always, I'll probably wind up purchasing the expansion later on down the road. I'm going to play with what I have for a little while, but they have an expansion for the original set called Caught in a Web, which features a large giant spider. And, you know, the first thing you think of is Shelob from Lord of the Rings. And they actually give you that scenario in here, Caught in a Web, and they give you all the info to, at that point, play that scenario. And then, of course, last but not least, you have the Corpse King, which is the Necromancer Voragesh. And I think the next one I'm going to play will be Fighting the Horde. Depending on what I have going on this evening, I may do a live stream of this and do a playthrough solo so everybody can see. Due to how long this game can take, it might be broken up into a couple of different sessions in order to finish it. So, we'll have to see. What do you think? Well, should we do a live stream? Want some coffee? No? Okay. More for me. Alright. So, the expansion is awesome. I like the expansion. It really does add more to the game. It really, really does deliver on its promise at expanding the scope of the game, giving it a real, authentic solo play, along with a cooperative. And I have to say, I tip my hat to Fantasy Flight Games for doing so. So, now, I'm going to review this, and I'm going to review the game system again, and when I do my review, I do my review the same way. I'm going to tell you about the pros and the cons, and then you can make a decision as to whether this game is right for you or not. So the first thing to get into, the game setup and the game board, it's a large game. You're going to need some room to set this thing up to play it. The game board, when you open it up, is 4 foot, and what I mean by 4 foot, it folds up into 1 foot square, and as you open it up, you got 4 foot squares. So boom, that's sit on your game table. And on top of that, you have the setup of what I hate about, and it's one thing I love Fantasy Flight Games, don't get me wrong. I love their games. And as I complained about in Fallout, that I don't understand, and I wish, you know, at this point, maybe they may make a change, or maybe one of you can add a comment and let me know why they do this, because it sure as heck doesn't make any sense to me. So they give me these normal size cards, right? Awesome! I love these. They're easy to shuffle, easy to handle, easy to maintain. But then you give me these ridiculous small cards that just get everywhere. You go to grab one and there's a landslide that goes across the table and you're trying to pick all this stuff up. And Lord help you with this small little itty bitty card, if it's the last one left on the table, you're constantly chasing it around the table because, let's face it, I don't have nails. So that right there just irritates me. The cards irritate me. That's why I don't like collectible card games, because I just don't like the cards. I don't like fidgeting with cards all the time. So that is like, ugh, I get it. So the other thing, and you know, when you read the rules out of the original set, you know, it's supposed to be RuneBound, so, you know, your character's casting these magic ruins, and the enemy's casting these magic ruins, and they're fighting and all this stuff. I get the idea of that. But they give you these ridiculous, right, cardboard tokens. You know, me personally, I wish, why not dice? What is wrong with dice? I don't understand it. I mean, they give you awesome miniatures to go with the game, but then they give you these cardboard, you know, flip a coin ordeal thing. And, you know, it just seems like they could have really saved a lot of these cardboard tokens and keeping all this crap together with a few simple dice with, you know, the symbols at that point engraved on them. Now, they give you these cool terrain dice with different, you know, at that point, images on them to tell you how your character moves across the board. Why not do the same with the combat system? But for whatever reason, they decided to go with these tokens. And my only complaint about these tokens is, and this is why I say you need a lot of room to set this stuff up, is, you know, now particularly with the expansion and having now 4 different classification of enemies, which means now you have 4 different classifications of tokens, 5 tokens each times 4. Now you got 20 tokens to keep track of. You lose one, and at that point, it's pretty well disadvantaged. And I kind of like just wish, what's wrong with dice? So, anyways, I'm done. No, that rant is done. That's one of the things I just don't like about this game system. Other than if keeping track of all those tokens was not enough, you get even more tokens. You get these quest lore tokens, you get these health tokens, you get your character's rune casting tokens, then you get your gold, then you get all your equipment tokens to equip to your character, so you can kind of see where they go with that. And so that aspect of it, you know, that's the one thing I just kind of don't like about the setup of the game, is you just have all these miscellaneous pieces everywhere that you got to keep track of and organize. So that aggravates me. But I see past it because it's a really cool game system. Now, what I like about it is the fact that you have a lot of replayability with this, and with the extra scenarios they gave you, and the way that the game system is set up, just like with Fallout, every time you shuffle the card banks and you run through the game system, you never know what's going to happen. So there's a large amount of randomness to it. There's a large amount of replayability to it, where it's a really cool system to pull out, to play, to have fun with. Now, the games do last a while, and if you're looking for a game system that might be, I don't know, 30 minutes to 35 minutes, this is definitely not the game system for you. This is a game you better set aside at least good 3-4 hours per game to be able to complete, because that's how long it's going to take in order for you to run your characters all over the board, to be able to complete this quest, that quest, power, at that point, power up your levels, not your levels, your skills, go shopping, get equipment, go questing to get more gold, go buy more equipment, and then at that point run across the board to face the main end boss of the game and try to win the game. So it's not a quick moving, half-hour game. It's going to be a game, once you set it up, it's going to take quite a few hours to actually complete. And now, I like that. I like that in the game because it's very in-depth, it's very rich, and I can really, really get into the game system. And I like that fact where I can come in here and I can set this up on a Monday, and then after work I can play for an hour, and throughout the week I can put an hour into this, and then by the time the end of the week comes, boom, the game is done. And I love that. So if you're the type of person that may not fit into your lifestyle, maybe RuneBound is not for you. But if you are, you will like it. Now, compared to a lot of other games out there on the market, RuneBound's pretty affordable for what you get compared to some of the other things out there, like Zombicide. That's a cooperative game that you're going to pay upwards to $100 for. And to be honest with you, I don't think Zombicide's even worth $100. I would say, in my opinion, Zombicide would be worth maybe $40 is what I would say it realistically should be priced at. But because of the hype of it, the publisher Simon has been able to say, oh yeah, $100, it's Zombicide, look at all these miniatures you get. Great, look at all these miniatures you get. Anyways, so with the game system, you get the cooperative, you get the solo play, you get the standard play, you get an awesome map, you get all this cool stuff, and it has a lot of replayability to it, which I like. Now, if you were to ask me and say, hey, Artichoke, where would you rate this particular game on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, I need to get a cup of coffee for this one. Let's discuss some of this. Alright, first thing, I love minis, especially detailed 28mm scale minis that I can paint and I can reuse in RPG games and look really cool on the board. That gives it points. the map layout, the replayability of the game, that is very cool. I love the main story theme. Who wouldn't love a fire-breathing dragon spreading chaos across the land? Yeah, good old days. Anyways, 3. So, things I just don't like about the game system, and I do not want to just keep beating this into the ground, but I wish you would have given me freaking dice, because you did with Fallout, but not with this. And I wish, please, if somebody from Fantasy Flight Games happens to run across this video and listen, please do something about these. Why? Why? I don't understand. I mean, let's just take a look here. We got big, normal, and then what's this? This is a Hobbit-sized playing card here. Why? So anyways, that really, Anyway, I would have to say, if I had to rate this game on a scale 1 to 10, and all joking aside and my aggravations with the crap that they use aside, I would give this an 8 out of 10 any day of the week. It's really that great of a game. It has a lot of replayability. It's probably going to be one of those games you're going to pull out, you're going to play, probably win the scenario, and you're going to probably put on your shelf, and it's probably going to sit there for a month or so. And then you're going to pull it down and you're going to play again, and it's going to, and that's just the way that RuneBound works, is because it's such a long, elaborate game that it kind of quenches that thirst of, you know, hey, I want to play some RuneBound, and it's so in depth and it takes so long that by the time you're done with it, you're like, that was cool, but I want to do something else now. So, if, just to reiterate, if you want to play RuneBound, this one, Unbreakable Bonds, do not buy this set itself, because this set, only thing you get are a couple of characters, their sheets, a couple of extra cards to go with the main system, and a little rule book that you're going to sit there and be like, huh, okay, because it'll tell you in the rule book, all you have to do is reference back to the rules that came with the core game system, which is this one right here, which you will need. So, and of course with that system, it comes with 2 books, 1 rule reference, and then 1 main rule book system to help you understand and play the game. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope if you've been on the fence about RuneBound, whether to purchase it and play it, or perhaps you own it and you know it's a game system where you've been like, it's pretty cool, but I don't have anybody to play with, it's really, really worth the investment to pick up Unbreakable Bonds, read that, integrate it into your system, and it will change the entire system and the way that you play it, and you will probably, if you're like me, fall in love with it fairly quickly. So, I think that's going to cover this video, guys, and I may do a live stream later playing this game, and like I said, if I do, it might be broken up into a couple of different videos just because of the length that it takes for the game. I may just do a demonstration video to show how RuneBound is played. I'll leave that up for you guys to put into the comments and decide, you know, what you would like to see and let me know. But before I end the video, I want to give a shout out to all the people on my Artichoke Dip Facebook page. And what a great community it really is. And if you haven't joined, I'm going to leave a link in the video description to where you can jump over there. And when you get there, you're going to have to answer 3 questions. 3 questions. Now, if you've been playing role-playing games, and you understand role-playing games, and you like role-playing games, the questions will be fairly simple. But if you don't know the difference between Geordi from Next Generation of Star Trek and, we'll say, Aragorn of Lord of the Rings, you're probably going to struggle, and I'm going to look at them questions and go, yeah, no. So, and I do that for a reason. I like to keep the like-minded people there, and it's really a cool, tight-knit community. People are always posting links of solo RPG and solo gaming aids to help people, PDF downloads. I know for myself, I have uploaded a free solo RPG game and random tables for people to utilize for their game systems. And it's overall an awesome, awesome community of people that get together there, which is why you have to answer the questions. Now, I'm not going to reveal those questions here. You have to read them and figure them out for yourself. But once you get into the page, you're going to find out that those people there are really good people. And it's the reason why I do what I do, to keep it that way so everybody can come in, enjoy the page, and enjoy what the page has to offer. The cool thing is people that have been long-standing members of the page and subscribers of mine, you know, they're more than willing, I have noticed, to help out. And if you have a question, they're right there to help you answer it, which I love, because it's really cool to be able to get the input from somebody else with a different opinion on solo RPG and how they do solo RPG from mine, or even solo board gaming. And not only have I learned a lot from it, but others have too. And it's a really, really, really cool page. So I think with that, I'm going to end the video here, guys. I now have this little runt asleep in my lap, and my legs are going to sleep. Pitiful. Anyways, I'm going to end it, guys. And if you like my video, click the like button. And if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Click the little bell icon. And I don't care, on a cell phone, laptop, tablet, or heck, if you're still transmitting smoke signals, you might get a notification. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, you just say yeah, sure. Yeah, just hit that little bell icon and you will be notified when my ugly mug uploads a new video telling you it says Artichoke Dip with a brand new video. Alright guys, I think it's going to end it here. Talk to you later. Artichoke Dip out.